Hi, it's Chris, and today's 10-minute writer topic is characters in conflict. Some writers tend to start with a character and then figure out what plot to put that person in, and some tend to start with a problem and then figure out what character goes with that problem. Some even start with more of a premise, maybe a time in history or a concept. The One of the scriptwriters for the movie Liar Liar said that they started with the idea of somebody who lied all the time, who was cursed, so they were no longer able to lie. And from that concept, they built out the character and the plot. So anything can work. It doesn't matter really where you start, but you do want your problem and your character to be closely tied together. So for my accidental detective series, in book one, Something Shady at Sunshine Haven, we meet Kate, who has been a war correspondent for 30 years. And after an injury, she is forced to come back to her childhood home in Arizona, move back in with her father, and try to rebuild her life. And so the first book, she finds out that there have been some suspicious deaths at the nursing home where her mother lives. So that gives her really high stakes, a big motivation in order to try to solve that mystery. But it also sets up a character who will work well for future books because she has that background as a journalist, that interest in finding the truth. There's a reason for people to ask her to help investigate things. So starting with a character, especially with a series, starting with somebody that you can use throughout the series and they will be motivated to tackle different problems really helps set you up for future books. And even within a single book, it's helpful if you make sure that your characters have strong goals or problems or things that they're tackling, and possibly more than one thing going on. So, the Billionaire Cowboy series is a sweet romance. It's about four brothers and their mother who win a huge lottery. And then each, book features each of the brothers and then their mom as the last one. And so in Charming the Billionaire Cowboy, this is a second brother. So he's newly rich, which means a lot of women are interested in him, and he has to figure out, whether they're really interested in him for himself or if it's just the money. So that would, potentially be enough to build a plot around. But to make it more interesting, he is starting his own ranch. He's had these ideas that he's never been able to convince his older brother to pursue. Now that he has money, he's starting a ranch with ostriches and llamas, investigating alternative meats. Then for the heroine, she is working at her aunt's wildlife rescue, which is not popular in town because people are afraid the wild animals might get out and hurt livestock or pets or people. She also is recovering from attack, which has done some damage to her memory. And the stalker comes after her again in the story. So by setting these characters up with sort of multiple things going on, it provides a lot of potential plot for the book, beyond just the two of them falling in love. So they can fall in love while they're also dealing with these other things. So you want to make sure that you have enough going on with your characters to support the plot. And then throughout the novel, you want to think about your main character's goals. Now, that doesn't mean it just has to be one goal. It can work if you have like a detective who wants to solve the mystery, but you can also play with different varieties of that. So, The Eyes of Pharaoh is a mystery novel for middle grade readers set in ancient Egypt. It starts out with Seshta, a temple dancer. Her goal is to win a big contest, which will kind of set her up, for her future. But she has a friend who's a soldier who says something mysterious is going on. He's going to get evidence, about this plot against the pharaoh, and then he disappears. So she then has a secondary goal to figure out what happened to him and eventually save him. And these two goals are really in conflict because if she wants to win the contest, she should be focused on that, practicing, getting her routine ready, and not running around trying to save her friend. So she has to figure out which is the most important to her and make decisions based on that. And that gives the book a little more depth than just saving the friend if I hadn't set up that other goal initially. The Genie's Gift, it starts with, a young girl in sort of Ottoman Empire era who is going to be married off by her father. She's rather shy. She's led a sheltered life. What she wants is to have more control over her own life. So when she hears about this genie who is very far away, there's a lot of trials you'd face to get to him. But if you can reach him, he gives the gift of sweet speech, which means you can charm anyone with your words. So she wants that. So that starts her on her journey. And over the course of the book, she has these adventures that are almost episodic, so they could almost work alone as short stories, but each one pushes her towards the next thing that happens, and all of it is still part of this overall goal of reaching the genie. So she rescues a bird that's being attacked by wolves. It gives her a feather and says, use this to go rescue this princess who is under a curse. Doing that leads to the next challenge. So you can have stories that are episodic, but I think it works better in general if they are tied together by some overall overarching thing that leads from the beginning to the end of the book. So think about making it clear in those episodes how that relates to the big plot. A good way to think about this is goal, motivation, conflict. And when I do developmental editing or critiques, I often use this as a shorthand, GMC, to remind readers or to remind authors that they need to have this on the page. So what does your main character want or need? That's their goal. Why is it important to them? That's their motivation, and it should be really important. And then why is it difficult? Because if it's too easy, there's no conflict. So you want the goal, motivation, and conflict in the book as a whole, but you also want it in every chapter, every scene. We need to know what the character is trying to do in this scene. Why is it important? And why is it difficult? And that keeps the tension going throughout the chapter as we wait to see whether they're going to solve this small problem that is part of reaching the bigger problem. So an exercise that you can practice with this is think about what is your main character's goal, motivation, and conflict. And then are those things clear in each scene? So you can even, if you have a complete draft, you can go back and kind of make an outline and say what happens in each chapter. And is the goal, motivation, and conflict, is there some in the chapter? And is it shown on the page? Don't be afraid to remind the reader at the beginning of a scene, this is what the character is trying to do. This is why it's important. This is why it's going to be challenging. And this is how it ties into the overall plot of the book. So this was a short excerpt from my advanced plotting class, the third section, characters in conflict. If you want to get the whole thing, it's 6 chapters that have longer videos and also handouts that go into more detail on some of these things. If you're interested in that, you can visit my chrisebach.com website and look at the 4 Writers tab, and that will give you information about the advanced plotting class, a couple of other classes I have going, and my critique services. And I also have a book called Advanced Plotting, which goes over some of these issues as well. So if you want more help, feel free to look into those. That wraps up today's 10-Minute Writer, and please subscribe so you won't miss out on anything in the future. Take care.